Yeah, I think stuff to do with family overwhelms me quite a bit. You know, worry or stress around family side of things, that does overwhelm me quite a bit.
I never thought the devil would be lurking within my own family. Prince William's tearful declaration marked the beginning of the most horrifying scandal in modern British royal history. A sophisticated poisoning plot targeting Princess Charlotte has just been exposed, turning Buckingham Palace into the scene of a ruthless criminal case. The mastermind is none other than Queen Consort Camilla, the most powerful woman in the palace. A secret medical report revealed a terrifying truth. For months, Camilla had been secretly slipping high doses of sedatives into Charlotte's nightly glass of milk. Her target wasn't the little princess's life, but rather the destruction of her intellect and public image, clearing the way for her own biological granddaughter, Eliza, to usurp the shining position of heir. Amidst the cold stone walls, a suffocating battle of wits unfolded between Guard Sergeant John and the Queen's elaborate web of manipulation. Could a silent guardsman, armed only with leftover milk samples and micro cameras, have enough power to overthrow the Iron Lady who controlled the media? What scars will this betrayal leave on the British monarchy when ironclad evidence is dropped right in the middle of a royal tea party? And will the price Camilla pays be enough to soothe the wrath of a father like William? Darkness enveloped the west corridor of Clarence House. In the enclosed dressing room, a sickly yellow light cast shadows across Queen Camilla's face. She sat motionless before the large mirror, but her hands were working with calculating precision. 4 lorazepam pills, a highly potent and strictly controlled sedative, rested in the bowl of a small porcelain mortar. With a decisive and cold force, Camilla crushed the pills into a fine, smooth, white powder. Camilla had no intention of taking Princess Charlotte's life. A sudden death within the palace would trigger global medical investigations, relentless press scrutiny, and the collapse of the very throne she had fought so hard to secure. What Camilla needed was a quiet fading, a destruction from within that would leave no trace. Her plan stemmed from a deep, smoldering jealousy. Every time she saw her own granddaughter, Eliza, relegated to the back rows, fading into the shadows, while Charlotte radiantly waved from the royal balcony, Camilla's blood boiled. She craved for her own bloodline to be worshipped. Charlotte, with her intelligence and radiant smile, was the biggest obstacle. The plan was clear. If Charlotte appeared before the public looking lethargic, forgetful, acting out of control, and constantly canceling schedules for health reasons, her prestige would naturally crumble. Then, Eliza would be pushed forward as the perfect substitute, a new spiritual pillar for the public. Camilla carefully used a tiny silver spoon to sweep the white powder into a small paper packet hidden in the folds of her coat. She stepped out of the room, walking down the quiet corridor toward her private kitchen. There, a warm glass of milk had already been prepared on her orders. With the swift, practiced movements of someone who had done this countless times, Camilla emptied the powder into the milk, stirring gently until the poison dissolved completely, leaving not a single trace. She personally carried the silver tray toward Charlotte's bedroom. As the door opened, Charlotte was sitting on the bed, her eyes tired after a long day. "I brought you some milk, my dear Charlotte," Camilla said, with a gentle tone, a forgery honed to absolute perfection. Charlotte took the glass, frowning slightly. "Grandma, I've been feeling so sleepy lately. My memory isn't very good either. Today I forgot my lines in the play." Camilla smiled, her hands gently stroking the little girl's hair. That's because you're carrying too much pressure on your shoulders, pressure unsuited for your age. Drink this milk, it will help you sleep deeply. Perhaps you should take a step back and rest more. Eliza can help you attend this weekend's ceremony so you can get some rest. Charlotte obediently brought the glass to her lips and drank it all. The little girl had no idea that every gulp of milk sliding down her throat was gradually eroding her brain cells, wearing away her sharpness and her very future. Camilla stood there, patiently watching her drink to the last drop. She took back the empty glass, smiling triumphantly in the dark. This cruel betrayal repeated day after day, turning a symbol of vitality into a lingering ghost right before the eyes of her loved ones. In the royal palace, everything moved to a perfect rhythm. But Guard Sergeant John never believed in that perfection. With a past of 15 years serving in the Special Forces, his survival instincts and observational skills were sharper than anyone else's. His sole mission was the absolute safety of Princess Charlotte. And lately, that safety was being threatened by a formless phantom. John was the first to notice the anomalies. It started with unprovoked, drawn-out yawns during etiquette lessons. Then came the unsteady steps as Charlotte walked down the stairs. The climax was an incident that occurred last Wednesday morning. Charlotte stood frozen in the middle of the main hall, her eyes glazed over, completely failing to recognize the nanny who had cared for her for 6 years. This temporary amnesia had been dismissed by the royal doctors, men promoted by Camilla herself, as nervous exhaustion due to a packed schedule. But John didn't accept that explanation. He observed in silence. He began to draw up a secret tracking chart. John recorded every timeline, every staff contact, every meal Charlotte had. With the mindset of a criminal investigator, he quickly pinpointed a highly dangerous blind spot. The nights when Charlotte's condition worsened the most always coincided with the nights Queen Camilla personally brought milk to her room. The suspicion was there, but John needed physical evidence. He knew Camilla had eyes and ears everywhere within the servant network. He couldn't break into the kitchen, nor could he ask the royal doctors to run new tests. He had to take the sample himself. One Thursday night, after Camilla left Charlotte's room, John quickly slipped in under the guise of checking the window security. Charlotte had fallen into a deep slumber, her breathing heavy. The empty glass of milk still sat on the silver tray by the headboard. A thin layer of film lingered at the bottom of the glass. John worked with the speed of a spy. He pulled a tiny syringe from his breast pocket, carefully drawing up the few remaining drops of milk along with the thin residue at the bottom. He injected the liquid into a specialized plastic test tube, sealed it tightly, and hid it deep inside the lining of his suit jacket. He wiped the glass clean with a handkerchief, ensuring no one would notice the tampering before the servants came in to clear it away. The next morning, on a rare day off, John drove dozens of miles out of London. He didn't go to renowned hospitals. He parked in front of a small private laboratory specializing in complex biochemical tests. John submitted the test tube under a fake name, using the excuse that it was a suspicious food sample from an expensive hunting dog showing signs of poisoning. 3 days later, the results were sent to an anonymous email inbox. John opened the encrypted file. The words that appeared on the screen made his blood boil. Sample contains high levels of lorazepam and diazepam. This impurity has a strong central nervous system depressant effect. Continuous use will cause brain damage, memory loss, and immune system collapse. This was no accident. This was a targeted assassination aimed at the heir's intellect. The perpetrator was still strolling freely on the palace's red carpets, smiling falsely for the media's cameras. John crumpled the lab report in his hand. The hunt was now truly beginning. He began installing micro cameras disguised as buttons and equipped himself with highly directional audio recorders the size of a toothpick head. Every single move Camilla made would now fall squarely into the sights of the silent eye. Knowing the truth was one thing, but accusing the reigning queen consort was an entirely different equation. John couldn't hand this evidence over to any external security agency. That would give Camilla's network a chance to destroy the proof or find a scapegoat. He needed a preemptive strike, cutting off all her avenues of escape. He took all the documents, from the lab results to his surveillance logbook, and secretly presented them to Prince William in a safe room in the basement of Kensington Palace. Upon reading the words on the lab report, William's face drained of color, shifting from shock to an utterly cold, terrifying fury. His little girl was being poisoned right under his own roof. William didn't scream. He closed the file, his razor-sharp gaze fixing on John. A plan to corner the prey right in her own den was set in motion. On Sunday, an intimate tea party was held in the large drawing room of Buckingham Palace. It was a chance for the core royal family members to gather ahead of a busy week. Camilla, draped in an elegant silk dress, was smiling radiantly, discussing having Eliza debut at an upcoming event in Charlotte's Place, because the poor girl's health simply isn't up to it. But she had no idea that John had turned this room into an inescapable glass cage. 4 high-resolution infrared cameras were hidden behind antique oil paintings. Omnidirectional microphones were planted beneath the large tea table. In the pantry next door, Camilla stepped in to perform her familiar ritual. A high-angle hidden camera clearly captured her every movement. Camilla opened her clutch, taking out a small pill bottle. She shook out 2 lorazepam pills, used the handle of a spoon to crush them, and tipped the powder into Charlotte's warm milk. Camilla carried the silver tray out to the main drawing room, walking toward Charlotte, who was sitting next to William. "This is your portion, Charlotte, milk from the farm to help you regain your strength," Camilla said in the sweetest voice she could muster. Just as Charlotte reached out to take the glass, William suddenly swung his arm, a ruthless, decisive swipe. The glass shattered on the marble floor, the white, poison-laced milk bleeding into the expensive hand-woven rug. A deadly silence fell over the room. Camilla flinched, desperately trying to maintain a calm facade. "William, what on earth are you doing? You frightened the child." William didn't even look at her. He took a step back, pulled a tablet from his pocket, and slammed it onto the tea table. The screen lit up, playing back the crisp video recorded just minutes earlier. The image of Camilla sneaking into her purse, crushing the pills, and pouring them into the milk was displayed in glaring detail. Camilla backed away, all the blood draining from her face. She stammered, frantically trying to salvage the situation with desperate lies. This is a misunderstanding. They are supplements. The doctors asked me to add vitamins for her." From the corner of the room, John stepped forward. His presence was like a grim reaper. In his hand was Camilla's clutch, which she had carelessly left behind in the pantry. John opened the purse and pulled out the small bottle containing the fully labeled lorazepam pills, along with a stack of papers. "Vitamins do not depress the central nervous system, Your Majesty," John said in an icy voice that echoed through the grand room. He tossed the stack of papers onto the table. It was a detailed schedule of upcoming events, in which Charlotte's name had been crossed out and replaced by Eliza's, accompanied by Camilla's own authorizing signature. "You controlled everything from fake medical records to the media schedule. You wanted to turn my daughter into a mental cripple just to put your granddaughter in her place." William growled, enunciating every word, each step he took forcing Camilla to retreat in sheer terror. "Toxicology evidence, live recorded video, and these very pills. Your plan is over." There was no discussion. There would be no shaking hands to make peace, no attempts to cover it up with gentle press releases. William held the true power of life and death over Camilla's fate. The villain had been backed into a corner, her mask of benevolence ripped away to reveal a greedy and malicious true nature. Camilla turned to look at King Charles, begging for intervention. "Charles, please. Say something. They're framing me." But the king just stood there frozen, his eyes drowning in ultimate disappointment and humiliation. He slowly turned his back, walking toward the window, abandoning his wife to face the consequences she had crafted with her own hands. Charles's silence was the death sentence for Camilla's power. William signaled to John. Immediately, 4 towering royal guards entered the room, sealing all exits. They didn't act like men serving a queen, but like wardens subduing a dangerous criminal. "Strip it all away," William commanded. Before the eyes of the core family members, Camilla was forced to remove her diamond necklace and the insignia of power pinned to her chest. Her trembling hands tried to cling to the symbolic jewelry, but it was useless. Every item was stripped away, symbolizing the total revocation of all the honor and status she had spent half her life scheming to acquire. "You will never be allowed to set foot in any British royal palace again," William declared, his tone as sharp as a blade. "All your financial privileges are frozen immediately. You will be taken from here, disappearing entirely from the public eye. If you dare open your mouth to the media to utter even a single word, this video and toxicology report will be broadcast globally. Your granddaughter Eliza will also be permanently struck from all royal attendance lists." Camilla screamed, tears of resentment and terror streaming down and ruining her perfect makeup. She struggled, but the guards had clamped down on her arms. There were no press camera flashes, no attention from the crowds. Camilla was escorted out the back door of Buckingham Palace, the very route the servants used to take out the trash. She was shoved roughly into the back seat of a heavily armored windowless van with blacked-out glass. The vehicle rolled away, plunging into the night, taking Camilla straight to an isolated, crumbling manor on the desolate highlands of Scotland. There, she would live out the rest of her days under absolute house arrest. No phone, no internet connection, surrounded by guards handpicked by John himself. Men who would ensure she never had the chance to see the sunlight of power again. Her existence was officially erased from the royal apparatus. Her plot to swap the bloodlines had been completely crushed. A week after that shocking event, the atmosphere at the palace had returned to its natural purity. Charlotte, after undergoing detox treatments from top specialists to clear the poison from her system, slowly regained her rosy complexion. Her eyes were clear once more, completely devoid of the dull, lethargic shadows. In a small but solemn room, Prince William stood facing Sergeant John. There was no cheering crowd, only the deepest acknowledgement between men who had stood shoulder to shoulder to protect the monarchy. William personally pinned the Gold Cross medal to John's chest, the highest honor for absolute loyalty and bravery in protecting the heir. Princess Charlotte stepped forward, a radiant smile blooming on her lips, and handed John a pristine white rose. "Thank you, Uncle John, for protecting me," the little girl said, her voice clear and ringing. John bowed his head to accept the flower, his eyes still flashing with sharp resolve. He knew that the enemies eyeing the throne would never stop plotting. But he was always ready. Evil might slip through the cracks of the magnificent castle, and ambition might turn humans into demons. But the truth always possessed the most destructive power. The one who sowed the poison was forced to pay the price with eternal isolation, and the light of justice had ruthlessly swept the darkness from the monarchy. The throne still stood firm, shielded by heroes who never needed the spotlight. A warm glass of milk, something that seemed like a grandmother's love, actually contained poison meant to destroy an entire future. How do you feel witnessing the moment Camilla's benevolent mask was ripped away right at the tea table? Is the punishment of stripping all titles and eternal exile enough to atone for the trauma Princess Charlotte had to endure? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.